Danny ran through the corridors of Station Meridian 7 faster than he had run in years. His lungs burned. His legs ached. He did not slow down. The dusty road was still impounded in the station's docking bay, but the security locks had been disabled for the duration of the hearing. Danny reached the airlock and slammed his palm against the entry panel. The door opened. Kira was already inside, warming up the engines. "I saw the alert," she said. "Oren is at navigation. Get us out there." The dusty road was a cargo freighter. It was old and slow and built for hauling supplies, not for combat. It had a single defensive cannon that Danny had never fired in 15 years of operation. It was not a ship designed for fighting. Danny flew it anyway. The passenger vessel was visible through the viewport, drifting with its engines dead. A raider ship circled it like a predator toying with wounded prey. The raiders were recluse, a species known throughout the sector for piracy and violence. Four-armed hunters who attacked ships near neutral zones and disappeared before security forces could respond. "Station security is scrambling," Oren reported from the navigation console. "Their patrol ships are too slow. They won't get here in time." Danny pushed the throttle forward. The dusty road accelerated toward the raider ship. "What are we doing?" Kira asked. "Buying time." The cargo freighter moved between the raider and the passenger vessel. Danny brought his ship to a full stop, blocking the raider's approach. On the station, the council watched through external feeds. Threx Vaughn stood motionless on his platform, staring at the image of a human cargo captain positioning his unarmed ship against armed pirates to protect the Volani vessel. Danny opened a communication channel. "Raider ship, this is the cargo freighter Dusty Road. Break off your attack." A harsh voice responded, broken by static. "Cargo freighter? You are joking. Move aside or we will cut through you." "I'm not moving." Laughter crackled through the speakers. "What are you going to do, cargo captain? You have no weapons. You have no shields. You are nothing." Danny leaned forward in his pilot's seat. "I am human." The laughter stopped. "Let me tell you something about humans," Danny continued. "We evolved as pursuit predators. Our ancestors hunted by chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. We cannot run the fastest. We cannot fight the hardest, but we can follow. We can track. We can keep going when everything else stops." His voice was calm and steady. "If you attack this ship, I will follow you. Wherever you go, however long it takes, I will follow. I will learn your names. I will learn where you dock. I will learn who your families are and where they live. And I will share that information with every species you have ever raided." The raider ship had stopped moving. "Humans do not forget. We do not give up. We hold grudges for generations. You can run to the far edge of the galaxy, and we will still be coming. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually, always eventually." Danny smiled, showing his teeth. "So here is my offer. Leave now, and I will forget I ever saw you. Stay, and I will make you my project, my hobby, my purpose. I will dedicate the rest of my life to making sure you regret this moment." Silence stretched across the communication channel. Then Kira's voice came from behind him. "He's not alone." She broadcast on an open frequency. "This is the Dusty Road. Any human ships in the sector, please respond." Static, then a voice. "This is the freighter Long Haul, 12 minutes out. We're coming." Another voice. "Mining vessel Redstone here. 20 minutes. On our way." A third. "Survey ship Bright Morning. 15 minutes. Tell us where you need us." Kira looked at Danny. "Told you making those calls would pay off." The raider ship turned. Its engines flared. Within seconds, it was accelerating away from the passenger vessel, away from the station, away from the humans who had promised to follow it forever. Danny watched it go. Then he brought the Dusty, rode alongside the damaged passenger vessel, and extended a docking bridge. The next 2 hours were spent helping. Danny and his crew moved through the Vorlani ship, assisting with emergency repairs, treating the wounded, keeping frightened passengers calm. The Vorlani watched the humans work with expressions that Danny could not quite read. Fear, maybe, but something else too. When they finally returned to Station Meridian 7, the council was waiting. Chamber 17 was full when Danny walked in. Every platform was occupied. Every species was watching. Counselor Yem floated at the center of the chamber. And Ambassador Threxvan stood on his platform with his shoulders slumped. "The hearing will resume," Counselor Yem announced. "Ambassador Threxvan, do you wish to continue with your petition to classify humans as Class-15 Deathworlders?" Threxvan was quiet for a long time. Danny watched him. He saw the fear still there, buried deep. But he saw other things too. Confusion, doubt. Something that might have been the beginning of understanding. "I withdraw the petition," Threxvan said quietly. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Counselor Yem called for order. "On what grounds?" the counselor asked. Threxvan looked at Danny. "I have seen recordings of humans doing terrible things. I have seen them fight and kill and destroy. But today, I watched a human risk his life to save Vorlani passengers. I watched him stand between a warship and defenseless people, armed with nothing but words." He paused. "I still find humans frightening. I do not know if I will ever stop finding them frightening. But I cannot call them monsters, not after what I saw today." Counselor Yem nodded slowly. "The petition is withdrawn. This hearing is concluded. Furthermore, by unanimous consent of the witnesses present, the Council issues a formal commendation. Humanity is to be recognized as a valued partner in galactic cooperation." Danny felt something release in his chest. Something he had not realized he was holding. Kira grabbed his arm. "We did it. We did something," Danny said later. As Danny was preparing to leave the station, Threxvan approached him. The ambassador moved carefully, keeping distance between them. But he did not flinch when Danny turned to face him. "I have a question," Threxvan said. "Ask it. When you threatened the raiders, when you told them you would follow them forever, were you telling the truth?" Danny thought about it. "Probably not," he admitted. "I have a business to run. I can't spend my life chasing pirates." "Then how did you know they would believe you?" "I didn't. But they've heard stories about humans. Stories about people who never stop, who never give up, who chase their enemies across decades and generations." Danny shrugged. "Some of those stories are true. Some of them aren't. But the raiders didn't want to find out which kind one was." Threxvan made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You are very strange." "So I've been told." The ambassador hesitated. "I am returning to Vorlani space tomorrow. I do not know if our species will ever truly understand each other, but I would like to try." Danny extended his hand. Threxvan stared at it for a moment, then carefully reached out and touched it with one of his limbs. It was not quite a handshake, but it was something. "Call me sometime," Danny said. "We'll get that drink I mentioned." He turned and walked toward his ship. Kira and Oren were waiting at the airlock. "Where to now?" Kira asked. "Home. I need to see my dog." "That's it?" "We just saved humanity's reputation, and now we're going home?" Danny climbed into the pilot's seat and started the engines. "That's it. Back to work. Back to normal." Kira shook her head. "You know what's terrifying about humans?" "What?" "We do impossible things and then act like it was nothing." Danny laughed. He set the course for home, and the dusty road lifted off. From Station Meridian 7, heading back to the cargo routes, back to quiet work, back to ordinary life. Behind them, the dying star cast its red light across the station where the galaxy had learned something new about humanity. Not that humans were dangerous. Everyone already knew that, but that humans were also kind, loyal, stubborn, foolish. brave, and that sometimes those things were exactly the same. Word of the tribunal had spread across Station Meridian 7. It had spread beyond the station too, through communication networks and trade routes and diplomatic channels. Species that had worked with humans wanted to be heard. Danny stood on his platform and looked at the witnesses who had come to speak for his kind. A massive reptilian warrior on one platform, an elderly pallid on another, a small rodent-like creature barely visible behind its podium. Representatives from species Danny had never met, all gathered in Chamber 17. Counselor Yem called the session to order. We will hear from those who have requested to testify on behalf of humanity. Captain Yulin of the Kreth Dominion, please begin. The Kreth warrior stepped forward. Captain Yulin was enormous, covered in thick scales the color of dried blood. His species was considered one of the most dangerous in the galaxy. They had fought wars against half a dozen civilizations and won most of them. I served alongside humans in the border conflict with the Shattered Arm Pirates, Yulin said. His voice was deep and rumbling, like rocks grinding together. 12 years ago. Joint operation. Kreth warriors and human marines, fighting side by side. He paused, and his yellow eyes moved across the chamber. The Kreth respect strength. We judge others by their ability to fight. When we first met the humans, we expected them to be weak. They are small. Their skin is soft. They have no claws, no scales, no venom. Threxvan leaned forward slightly on his platform. We were wrong, Yulin continued. In combat, humans are terrifying. Not because of their weapons, because of their minds. They do not break. You can wound them, and they keep fighting. You can kill their friends, and they keep fighting. You can tell them a battle is hopeless, and they find a way to win anyway. He turned to look directly at Danny. But that is not why the Kreth respect humans. We respect them because of what they do after the fighting stops. The chamber was silent. When our soldiers fell, humans carried them. Kreth warriors twice their size, bleeding and broken. Humans picked them up and carried them to safety. When supplies ran low, humans shared. When we were hungry, they gave us their food. When we were tired, they stood guard while we slept. Yulin's voice softened, which Danny had not thought possible for a Kreth. Humans earned our respect, not through violence, but through loyalty. They fought beside us like we were their own people. And when the war ended, they did not abandon us. They helped us rebuild. They sent doctors and engineers. They stayed. The next witness was Engineer Tox, a Minari. The Minari were small creatures, covered in soft fur, with large dark eyes that seemed too big for their faces. They were engineers and builders, known throughout the galaxy for their technical skills. Tox had to stand on a raised block to be seen over the podium. 14 years ago, Tox said, there was an accident at Colony Minari 7. A mining operation collapsed. 300 of my people were trapped underground. The small creature's voice trembled, but it kept speaking. We called for help. Many species responded. Ships came from across the sector. But the tunnels were unstable. The air was running out. Everyone said it was too dangerous to attempt a rescue. Tox looked up at Danny. The humans did not listen. They sent teams into the tunnels anyway. They worked for 90 hours without stopping. 90 hours without sleep, without food, crawling through collapsing passages and toxic air. The Minari's eyes glistened. They saved 287 of us. They lost 11 of their own people doing it. 11 humans who died trying to save strangers they had never met. Tox's voice cracked. When we asked the human commander why they took such risks for people who were not their own, she said something I have never forgotten. She said that everyone is their own. The elderly pallid, Sage Mavani, spoke next. Pallids were slow and deliberate, their words chosen carefully. I have studied humanity for 80 years, Mavani said. I have read their histories. I have observed their behavior. I have spoken with thousands of their kind. The sage moved closer to the center of the chamber, which was unusual for a pallid. Humans have existed in galactic society for barely 2 centuries. In that time, they have started no wars of conquest. They have committed no genocide. They have destroyed no worlds. Mavani turned toward the Volani delegation. The same cannot be said for many species in this chamber. The same cannot be said for the Volani hegemony, which conquered 3 systems by force 400 years ago. Threx Van stiffened but did not respond. Humans are capable of terrible things. Their history proves this. They have committed atrocities against their own kind. But they have also shown remarkable capacity for change, for growth, for choosing to be better than they were. Ambassador Threx Von finally spoke. You present isolated incidents, stories, emotion, but the fundamental nature of humanity remains unchanged. They are predators. He activated his display panel. Images appeared showing human wars, human violence, human cruelty throughout history. This is what humans do to each other. Imagine what they will do to us. Lena stepped forward. May I respond? Counselor Yem nodded. Lena did not deny anything. She looked at the images of human atrocities, and she did not look away. Everything you have shown is true, she said. Humans have done terrible things. We have killed each other. We have enslaved each other. We have destroyed ourselves in ways that make no sense. She turned to face the council. That is why we work so hard to be better now. We remember our mistakes. We teach our children about them. We build systems to prevent them from happening again. Not because we are naturally good, but because we know how bad we can be. Her voice was steady and clear. Growth requires acknowledging failure. Humanity has failed many times, but we have also risen from those failures. We have changed. We are still changing. She looked at Threxvon. You fear what we are capable of. So do we. That fear is what drives us to be better. Counselor Yem called for Danny to make his final statement. Danny stepped forward on his platform. He was a middle-aged cargo hauler who had never wanted to represent his species. But here he was, standing in front of the galaxy, trying to explain what it meant to be human. I am not a soldier, he said. I am not a diplomat. I am not a hero. I am a man who delivers cargo and fixes engines and misses his dog back home. He looked around the chamber at all the faces watching him. I do not speak for all of humanity. I cannot. We are too different from each other for anyone to speak for all of us. But I can speak for myself. He took a deep breath. I am not a weapon. I am not a threat. I am a person who wants to do his job and live his life and help people when I can. If that makes me a Class-15 Deathworlder, then your classification system is broken. He stepped back. I am done defending my right to exist. Either you believe I am a person or you do not. Counselor Yem began to speak, preparing to call for a vote. Then the alarm started. Red lights flashed across Chamber 17. A warning message appeared on every screen in the room. Distress signal received. Ship under attack. Immediate assistance required. Danny looked at the message. A Volani passenger vessel was being attacked just outside the station. Raiders. He did not wait for permission. He ran. Danny's question had caused chaos. The Volani delegation demanded an immediate recess. Ambassador Threxvon disappeared into private chambers and refused to speak with anyone. Counselor Yem announced that the hearing would resume in 12 hours. Kira found Danny in the observation deck, staring out at the dying star that Meridian 7 orbited. The light was red and dim, and it made everything look like it was covered in rust. You stirred something up, she said. I just asked a question. A question nobody wanted answered. She leaned against the railing beside him. Lena is digging through records. She thinks there might be something buried in the official files. Danny nodded but did not respond. He was tired. He had been hauling cargo for 15 years, and he had never wanted to be important. He just wanted to do his job and go home. Someone was watching them. Danny noticed a Volani standing in the shadows near the observation deck entrance. It was not Threx Vaughn. This one was smaller, younger, wearing the simple clothes of a junior bureaucrat rather than diplomatic robes. "Can I help you?" Danny asked. The Volani stepped forward slowly. His movements were careful, like someone approaching a wild animal. "My name is Chelik. I am a sub-administrator in the Hegemony Trade Office." "Nice to meet you." Chelik glanced around nervously. "I should not be here. If anyone sees me talking to you, my career is over." Kira straightened up. "Then why are you here?" "Because what they are doing to you is wrong." Chelik's voice was barely above a whisper. "The charges against you are lies. The petition is built on fear and politics, not truth." Danny turned to face him fully. Chelik flinched but did not run. "Tell me," Danny said. Chelik took a deep breath. "The plague on Colony Tertius 9 was worse than the official report said. Much worse. Thousands were dying every day. Our medicine was not working. Our doctors were helpless." "I know," Danny said. "That's why I was hired to deliver human medicine." "You were hired secretly." "Off the books. No official record." Chelik wrung his hands together. "The administrator who contacted you did it without authorization. He knew that human treatments were the only thing that would work. But the hegemony would never admit that publicly." "Why not?" "Because admitting that humans saved us would mean admitting that humans are better at something than we are. It would mean acknowledging that the species we call monsters and predators and threats are also the species that developed a cure for our plague." Kira laughed bitterly. "So they'd rather let people die than accept help from humans?" "They did accept help. They just buried it. Erased the records. Made sure no one would ever know." Chelik looked at Danny with something like shame in his eyes. "The threat you posed was never physical. It was political. If the galaxy learned that a human saved a Vorlani colony, it would destroy decades of propaganda." Danny absorbed this quietly. He thought about the sick people he had seen when he delivered the medicine. The children lying in medical bays. The parents begging for help. He had thought he was doing a routine job. He had not known he was part of something bigger. "Will you testify?" he asked. Chelik's body tensed. "I cannot. They would destroy me. My family. Everything I have." "Then why tell me at all?" "Because you asked the right question. And because someone should know the truth, even if it never becomes official." Chelik turned and walked away, disappearing into the corridors of the station. Danny watched him go. That night, Danny went to see Threx Vaughn. The ambassador's quarters were in the Volani section of the station. Danny had to pass through 3 atmospheric barriers and 2 security checkpoints to reach them. The guards watched him with obvious fear, but they let him through. He had the right to confront his accuser. Threx Vaughn answered the door himself. He looked tired. The rigid posture from the hearing was gone, replaced by something slumped and weary. "Why are you here?" the ambassador asked. "To talk. We have nothing to discuss." "I think we do." Threx Vaughn stared at him for a long moment. Then he stepped aside and let Danny enter. The quarters were sparse and clean. Volani did not keep many possessions. Danny stood in the center of the room while Threx Vaughn moved to the far wall, keeping as much distance between them as possible. "You are not what I expected," Threx Vaughn said. "What did you expect?" "Anger, aggression, threats." The ambassador made a gesture that might have been a shrug. "You are calm. It is unsettling." Danny sat down on a bench near the door. He moved slowly, deliberately. the way he had learned to move around nervous animals back on his grandmother's station. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said. "I'm here to understand." "Understand what?" "Why you're so afraid of me." Threxvan was quiet for a while. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. "I have seen recordings of humans in combat. I have watched your soldiers fight. They do not stop. They take injuries that would kill any Vorlani, and they keep moving. They lose limbs and keep fighting. They watch their friends die and keep fighting. That's war. It's terrible. We hate it. You hate it, but you are good at it. Too good." Threxvan moved to a display panel on the wall. He activated it, and images appeared. Humans running. Humans climbing. Humans swimming in freezing water and walking through burning deserts. Your species evolved on a world that tried to kill you every day. Predators, diseases, natural disasters. Everything on your planet is dangerous. And you survived. You conquered it all. We adapted, Danny said. You became the most dangerous thing on your world. And then you came to space. You brought all of that with you. Your endurance, your persistence, your ability to keep going when any other species would give up. Danny watched the images cycling on the display. He saw humans doing ordinary things, running marathons, working long shifts, staying awake for days during emergencies, things that humans considered normal. "I understand why that's scary," he said. "But being capable of something doesn't mean we'll do it. Humans are also capable of kindness, of compassion, of sacrifice." "I have seen that too," Threxvan admitted. "I have seen humans die to save strangers. I do not understand it. It's part of who we are. The same thing that makes us dangerous also makes us protective. We form bonds. We care about people, even people who aren't like us." Threxvan turned off the display. "You are trying to convince me that humans are not threats." "No, I'm trying to convince you that we're more than just threats." The ambassador moved to a window that looked out at the stars. His reflection was a dark shape against the dim red light of the dying sun. "I have never spoken to a human before you," he said quietly. "In all my years of arguing that your species should be contained, I have never once sat in a room with one of you." Danny stood up slowly. "Maybe that's the problem." He walked toward the door. Before he left, he stopped and looked back at Threxvan. "The hearing resumes tomorrow. You're going to stand up there and try to get my species classified as monsters. But I want you to remember something." "What?" "I came here alone, unarmed. I walked into your quarters in the middle of the night, and I sat down and talked to you. That's what humans do. We reach out. We try to connect. Even with people who hate us." He opened the door. "Think about that. And then decide if you really believe we're Class-15 Deathworlders." Danny walked out into the corridor. Behind him, Threxvan stood motionless at the window, staring at the stars. The next morning, when Danny arrived at Chamber 17 for the final day of the hearing, he found something unexpected. 6 additional platforms had been added to the chamber. On each one stood a representative of a different species. They were all there to speak Dot. They were all there to speak for humanity. The human diplomatic liaison found Danny in the station's food court. Her name was Commander Lena Hart, and she looked like she had not slept in a while. "I got here as fast as I could," she said, sliding into the seat across from him. "This is bad. This is really bad." Danny pushed a cup of coffee toward her. "I figured that out already." Lena took the coffee and drank half of it in one gulp. "The Volani have been pushing for human restrictions for decades. They've never had enough support to make it happen. But if they win this case, if they get you classified as a Class-15 threat, it sets a legal precedent, meaning every human becomes a threat by default," Kira said. She was standing behind Danny with her arms crossed, watching the crowds move through the food court. Exactly. Human traders get banned from hegemony space. Human ships get turned away from Vorlani stations. Human colonies near Volani territory get pressured to relocate. Lena shook her head. It would take generations to undo the damage. Danny stared at his own coffee. He had not touched it. I still don't understand what I did wrong. I delivered medicine to sick people. I was polite. I left. That's the problem. You didn't do anything wrong. The Volani aren't accusing you of a crime. They're accusing you of being human. The hearing resumed that afternoon. Danny stood on a platform in the center of Chamber 17 while Counselor Yem reviewed the evidence. The full recording from the cargo exchange played on a massive holographic screen. Danny watched himself walk through the Vorlani station. He saw himself smile at a worker who was struggling with a heavy crate. He saw himself step forward to help. He saw the worker drop the crate and scramble backward. At the time, Danny had assumed the worker was just startled. Now he understood. The worker had been terrified. The human approached without warning, Threxvon narrated. He displayed his teeth. He moved toward the worker with clear intent. I was trying to help him carry the crate, Danny said. Your intent is irrelevant. Your actions caused fear. Your biology caused fear. Your existence in that space caused fear. A new witness was called. His name was Trademaster Skrellick, and he appeared as a hologram transmitted from Volani space. He was the one who had filed the original complaint. Skrellick's voice trembled as he spoke. The human walked among us like we were nothing, like we did not matter. He showed his teeth constantly. He made loud noises. I laughed at a joke, Danny said quietly. He moved without warning. One moment he was on one side of the bay. The next moment he was beside me. I did not see him approach. Danny remembered that too. Skrellick had been standing near the manifest console. Danny had walked over to sign the delivery confirmation. Normal stuff, routine. You are describing standard human behavior, Lena said. She had been given permission to assist with Danny's defense. Humans smile when they are happy. They laugh when something is funny. They walk directly toward their destinations. None of this is threatening. It is threatening to us, Threxvon said. Humans are pursuit predators. Your ancestors hunted by chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Your bodies are designed for endurance. Your eyes face forward like all predators. Your teeth are built for tearing meat. We're also designed for cooperation, Lena countered. Humans survived because we work together. We share food. We care for our sick and elderly. We form bonds with other species. You form bonds with prey animals. You keep them in your homes. You call them pets. Danny's pilot, Orrin Briggs, was called as a witness. He was a young man, barely 25, and he looked nervous standing before the council. Tell us what happened during the cargo exchange, Counselor Yem said. Orrin swallowed hard. Nothing happened. We landed. We unloaded the medicine. Captain Cole talked to some of the workers. We left. Did Captain Cole do anything aggressive? No, he was friendly. He's always friendly. Threxvon stepped forward. Did Captain Cole remove any clothing during the exchange? Orrin looked confused. He took off his jacket. It was warm in the cargo bay. And what was underneath the jacket? His shirt. Describe his arms. Orrin glanced at Danny, clearly lost. They're just arms. Normal arms. Human arms, Threxvon corrected. Covered in muscle. Built for grabbing and holding and crushing. When the human removed his jacket, he revealed weapons attached to his body. Danny looked down at his own arms. He was not a big man. He had the build of someone who had spent decades doing manual labor. Loading cargo. fixing engines. Nothing special, Dot, but to the Vorlani, his arms were terrifying. Lena presented her counter-evidence. Records of hundreds of peaceful interactions between humans and Vorlani. Trade agreements that had benefited both species. Emergency rescues where human crews had saved Vorlani lives. These incidents prove nothing, Threxvon said. They only show that humans can restrain themselves when they choose to. The danger lies in what happens when they do not choose restraint. That's not fair, Danny said. You can't punish us for things we might do. We can protect ourselves from things you are capable of doing. Counselor Yem raised a limb for silence. Danny Cole, do you wish to make a statement? Danny thought for a moment. Then he stepped forward on his platform. My grandmother, he said, was afraid of spiders her whole life. She grew up on a space station where there were no spiders. She had never seen one in person. But she had seen pictures, and she had heard stories. And she was terrified of them. The chamber was quiet. One day, when I was a kid, I found a spider in a cargo crate from Earth. A tiny little thing. Completely harmless. I showed it to my grandmother, and she screamed and ran out of the room. Threxvon shifted uncomfortably. Her fear was real, Danny continued. I'm not saying it wasn't. But the spider wasn't dangerous. It couldn't hurt her. Her fear was based on stories and pictures and things she had imagined, not on anything the spider had actually done. He looked directly at Threxvon. Fear is real. I understand that. But fear isn't evidence. You can't classify an entire species as dangerous just because you're afraid of them. Threxvon's voice was cold. Pretty words. But they don't change what you are. Danny nodded slowly. Maybe not. But I have a question. Ask it. If humans are so dangerous, if I'm such a threat, why did the Volani hegemony hire me to deliver medicine to a plague-stricken colony? Threxman froze. Danny continued. That colony was dying. Thousands of people were sick. And someone in your government reached out to a human cargo captain and paid him to bring human-developed medicine to save them. Why would they do that if humans are monsters? The chamber was silent. Counselor Yam turned toward the Volani delegation. Ambassador Threxvon, do you have a response? Threxvon did not answer. His body was rigid, his limbs locked in place. Danny waited. The silence stretched on. Finally, Counselor Yem spoke. This hearing will recess until tomorrow. I suggest all parties use the time to gather additional evidence. Danny stepped down from his platform. As he walked toward the exit, he passed close to Threxvon. The ambassador did not flinch this time. But Danny could see the calculation in his eyes. The fear was still there. But now there was something else too. Uncertainty. Danny Cole had been hauling cargo across the outer systems for 15 years. He had seen strange things and met strange people. But he had never been summoned to the Galactic Arbitration Council before. He did not even know they could summon humans. The station was called Meridian 7. It floated in orbit around a dying red star, and it served as neutral ground for every species in the known galaxy. Danny watched through the viewport as his ship, the Dusty Road, was pulled into the docking bay by automated clamps. He had not been given a choice about landing. Kira Vance stood beside him with her arms crossed. She was his co-pilot and business partner, and she was angry. She had been angry since the patrol ships intercepted them 3 hours ago. "This is garbage," she said. "We haven't done anything wrong." Danny shrugged. "Guess we'll find out what they think we did." The docking clamps locked into place. A message appeared on their screen telling them to proceed to Chamber 17. Danny grabbed his jacket and headed for the airlock. The station was enormous. Different sections had different atmospheres and different gravity levels to accommodate dozens of species. Danny and Kira walked through the human-compatible corridors until they reached a massive circular door. It opened without them touching anything. Chamber 17 was built like an arena. Platforms of various sizes rose at different heights, each one designed for a different kind of body. The ceiling was so high that Danny could barely see it. Lights floated in the air, adjusting their color and brightness for different eyes. A pallid waited for them at the center of the chamber. Pallids were gelatinous beings, pale and soft, shaped roughly like melted candles. They served as judges and arbiters throughout the galaxy because they had no armies and no territories and no reason to take sides. This one was called Counselor Yem, according to the translation device Danny wore in his ear. "Danny Cole of Earth," the counselor said, "you have been summoned to answer charges brought against you by the Volani hegemony." Danny blinked. "The Volani? I just did a cargo run for them 3 weeks ago. Delivered medical supplies to one of their colony worlds. Everything went fine. That is not what they claim." A platform descended from the upper levels of the chamber. Standing on it was a Volani diplomat. The Volani were tall and thin, with hard shells covering their bodies like armor. They had 6 limbs that could serve as either arms or legs depending on the situation. This one wore official robes and carried a data tablet. "I am Ambassador Threxvane," the Volani said. "I speak for the hegemony in this matter." Danny nodded politely. "Nice to meet you. What exactly am I being charged with?" Threxvane touched his tablet. A holographic image appeared in the air between them. It showed Danny walking through a cargo bay on a Volani station. He was smiling and talking to someone off-screen. Volani workers were visible in the background, and they were backing away from him. "You threatened members of our trade delegation," Threxvane said. "You caused fear and panic among innocent workers. You disrupted official hegemony operations." Danny stared at the image. He remembered that day perfectly. He had delivered 40 crates of medicine to a colony that was dealing with a bad outbreak of something. He had made small talk with the workers. He had thanked them for their help. Then he had left. "I don't understand," Danny said. "I didn't threaten anyone. I just talked to them." "You displayed predator teeth," Threxvane said. I smiled. "You demonstrated pack hunting coordination. Signals." I waved at my crewmate. "You marked territory by placing your possessions on hegemony. Property." Danny thought about that one for a moment. I put my coffee cup down on a crate. Kira made a noise that was somewhere between a laugh and a growl. "This is insane. You're charging him with smiling?" Threxvane turned to face her. Even from across the chamber, Danny could see the ambassador's body stiffen with tension. Human expressions of happiness are indistinguishable from threat displays. Your teeth are weapons. Your muscles are weapons. Your very presence is a weapon. Counselor Yem raised what might have been a hand. The charges are secondary to the larger purpose of this hearing. Ambassador Threxvane, please explain. The Volani straightened to his full height. The hegemony has submitted a formal petition to the Council. We request that humans be officially classified as Class-15, Deathworlders, and restricted from all hegemony space immediately. Danny had heard the term before, but never applied to humans. What does Class-15 mean exactly? Counselor Yem answered, "It is the highest threat classification in our system. It is reserved for species that are considered existential dangers to galactic civilization. Species that cannot be reasoned with. Species that must be contained for the safety of all others." "How many species have that classification?" Kira asked. "Currently 2. Both are quarantined to their home systems and forbidden from space travel." Danny let that sink in. The Volani wanted to lock humanity away forever. They wanted to put humans in the same category as species so dangerous that the entire galaxy had agreed to trap them on their own worlds. This hearing will determine whether the Petition has merit, Counselor Yem continued. If Danny Cole cannot demonstrate that humans are not an inherent threat, the ruling will set precedent for your entire species. Kira stepped forward. That's not fair. One guy can't represent all of humanity. The hegemony believes he can, Threxvon said. He is a typical example of his kind. Unrestrained, unpredictable, dangerous without even knowing it. Danny looked at the hologram still floating in the air. He looked at himself, smiling, waving, putting down a cup of coffee. He looked at the Volani workers frozen in the moment of backing away from him. He had not known they were afraid. He had thought they were just busy. Counselor, Danny said slowly, how long do we have to prepare a defense? The hearing will proceed over the next 3 standard days. You may call witnesses and present evidence. 3 days. 3 days to prove that humanity deserved to exist in galactic society. 3 days to convince people who thought smiling was a threat. Threxvon was watching him. Danny could feel the ambassador's fear from across the room. It was real fear. The Volani genuinely believed that Danny might attack at any moment. Danny took a deep breath. He did not raise his voice. He did not move suddenly. He did not smile. All right, he said. I guess I need to make some calls. He turned and walked toward the exit. Kira followed him, still angry, still ready to fight. Behind them, Threxman watched with the careful attention of prey tracking a predator. Danny wondered how he was going to explain this to his mother. She worried about him enough already. Now, he had to tell her that her son might accidentally get humanity banned from half the galaxy. The door closed behind them. Danny pulled out his communicator and started scrolling through his contacts. Who are you calling? Kira asked. Everyone I know. We're going to need help. Kira nodded. Then she smiled, showing her teeth without thinking about it. Somewhere behind the closed door, Danny was certain that Threxvon had just flinched.